What things do people have in other countries that you're jealous of? I love how Koreans have little noise machines in their public restrooms. I can fart shamelessly in those. And I'm jealous of Europe's rail system. Elaborate? What's a noise machine? It's like a little box by the toilets in public restrooms. You push a button and it makes loud ambient noise that drowns out your poop sounds. As a prank, they should replace the sound with somebody yelling, "Hey, I'm taking a shit in here." Wouldn't it then be embarrassing to turn it on? If only it were on all the time. Germany. Their highways and mass transit systems. One of my favorite memories of Germany was the fact that all, if not, almost all taxis were Mercedes-Benz. Their dump trucks were Mercedes. My mind exploded when I saw that. The only thing Mercedes-Benz commercial vehicles like dump trucks and buses have in common with Mercedes-Benz cars is the name. They're produced in different divisions of Daimler and don't share parts. So you're saying that that dump truck doesn't have leather seating? Such a ripoff. In Holland we have no mountains, not even a hill, it's all flat. In my town in the US, the town is so hilly that the school's mascot is a hill. Yes, a hill. That's awesome. Please tell me some dude dresses like a hill at football games and does hill related activities. Someone told me that someone did years ago, but I have never seen it. I feel like I should go and buy a hill costume. Where the hell would you buy a hill costume? Oh, right, your town. Canadian. Jealous of the way European stores include the tax in their shelf prices. You should be jealous of Oregon. Not all the US is like this. No sales tax. And per unit measure prices on shelf prices. As a Brazilian teacher, I'm really jealous of Japanese and Finnish educational system. The Brazilian one is a bad joke. As an American teacher I feel the same way. It would be nice to teach in a place where people valued public education. Borders. I live in Australia. I'd love to be able to casually go on a road trip to another country. I initially thought you meant the failing bookstore Borders. As a Canadian, I was thrilled that you can buy anything in a vending machine in Japan. I bought chicken strips and fries and a beer from a machine next to it. And they were actually delicious. I am half Italian and half Greek, and I'm jealous of UK's healthcare system, US, space, as in, landmass, and most everything Scandinavian apart from the long nights and the weather. Oh, and every country that has a decent balanced budget. Oh, and every country that has a decent balanced budget. Don't feel too bad. There's not many of those around. American Netflix. I'm jealous of Japan's awesome bullet train. Or just their subway system in general. I'm also jealous of Switzerland's Alps. So gorgeous. Well, France has faster trains than Japan and the Alps. But then, we also have the French. As an Australian, I am jealous of how cheap stuff is for other countries. I am also jealous of Europe and how easy it is to get to other awesome countries. When I was on deployment, our submarine ported in Scotland. It was glorious. One of the days we were there we came home from seeing Stirling Castle and the William Wallace Memorial. It was so picture perfect. Everything was semi-shrouded in fog in the hilly distance and the streets were cobblestone. I arrived back at the pub in Helensburgh with a shit-eating grin on my face only to have the bartender ask why I was so happy. I said, "You guys have castles and shit. It's like something out of a fairy tale." And to see that these structures still mean so much to people was awesome. The Performing Arts Festival at Edinburgh was simply outstanding. I am jealous of castles. As a Scottish guy I hear a lot of people complaining about this country. Every country has its problems and people tend to focus on them. It's natural, I guess, but after a while it starts to get to you. When I hear a non-Scottish person talk about how much they enjoyed their time in Scotland, it makes me feel like a lucky person. Thanks: 3. As an Indonesian, I am jealous of non-theocratic governments. The sun. Sincerely, England. The rain. Sincerely, Dubai. Well, I miss rain anyway. I can understand it in Dubai. I've been like 7 times now, every time in summer. Love it for holidays, but 50 degrees in summer is only fun for a week. A week? If it ever get that hot here, Canada, I wouldn't leave the house. I'd close all the curtains, blast the AC and sit around naked with my balls in an ice bucket, browsing Reddit all day. I thought you guys were talking about Fahrenheit and was about to call you both pussies. I then realized that 50 degrees Celsius would probably melt my whole face off. Freedom, not only of the internet. With love from China. Hey, but you've got those awesome planned cities that people could possibly might start to move into at some point in the future maybe. I am renting out 15,000 square featuring in the new China Mall currently. I got 12 bathrooms. I can shit all day. N-word. That butt cleaning thing. B-day. My pets think it's a water fountain. Mexican here. I would like to have peace. No shootings. No murders. No kidnappings. No nothing related to violence. Give us that and we will supply all of you with nice Mexican food. I envy the Japanese for their food, the Americans for their can-do attitude and entrepreneurialism, the Swiss for their freedom and democracy, and the Liechtensteiners for their pretty socks. History, castles and ruins and whatnot. Seems like everywhere I go in Europe, you're running into another area of huge historical significance. Meanwhile, in America, we have some buildings from a few hundred years ago. I regularly get blind drunk in pubs twice as old as your country. Oh yeah, well I get blind drunk on whiskey bottled after you made this comment. Good old Kentucky corn whiskey. We even have one that is guaranteed 30 days younger or less. Sounds like Padowski. That's not really our fault though. If the Europeans got their act together and colonized North America earlier, then we could have had castles as well. And an Indian. I'm really jealous of the more respectful and sexually empowered way that many Western countries treat their women. As an American, I'm jealous of Japan for one simple thing. People following the rules. I'm not saying Japan doesn't have crime, but the people there seem to have a more common courtesy for their society. The Japanese earthquake is a perfect example of how the people there have respect for the rules and an orderly society. Virtually no looting happened and citizens worked together to rebuild what was lost. If that shit went down in the US, you know there's be riots, robberies, and people killing each other for bits of resources. It is an interesting cultural difference. I lived in Japan for a few months as an exchange student when I was 15. I was shocked that there were beers in vending machines. Anybody could buy a beer if they wanted to, but you just didn't do it if you were underage. That went without saying. I couldn't even imagine if there was a beer vending machine within 5 miles of any American high school. It would be empty, destroyed, looted within hours. Hell, in Canada we riot and loot when our hockey team performs poorly for frick's sake. I can't help but think that in the face of a natural disaster, Canadians would act much like the Japanese. It's only for love of your hockey teams that you break out of your natural politeness. I would have to agree. Most of us are pretty embarrassed about hockey riots. Frickin' kinda eggs man. As a Swiss, I would love to have access to the ocean without having to drive for 7 hours. As an American, I would love to have access to the ocean without driving 13 hours. We think in different proportions in Europe. Even 1 hour of driving is a lot. I wouldn't even be in the same country. Language zone anymore smiley face. So jealous smiley face. I could drive for 24 hours and not be in a different country. Anyone could drive for 24 hours and not be in a different country if they wanted to. Romania, they're vampires. I am jealous of France because they have a lovely collection of stolen goodies from history. So many museums and artifacts. They even have the Bayeux tapestry. If I was in France, I would find a way to live inside the Louvre. The janitors would tell stories of a presence in the museum, and I'd become a quiet legend. South African accents. Except that most people confuse us with Australians. Well, it's not that bad, at least you're in the middle of Europe and can go anywhere you want. Very jealous of British television. Specifically, Stephen Fry. Brit here. Don't we just love pointing it out on Reddit? If you have not already watched them, I recommend trying to watch Peep Show, Sherlock and Life. There are hundreds of other great programs out there, but those are the first few that pop to mind. Peep Show is possibly the most bell-wrenchingly hilarious sitcom I have ever watched that stars two great British comedians. Sherlock is a modern-day take on the old detective and set in London. The writing is genius, the cinematography is first-rate and the acting is astounding. It also stars Benedict Cumberbatch, who could turn the beefiest redneck homosexual with one syllable. Life, which you might have already watched, is a David Attenborough series produced by the BBC that I would consider the greatest nature documentary ever made. It took 4 years to make in total and was shot entirely in high definition. It spans continents and species, and I know people who would never watch nature documentaries who absolutely loved it. I've heard that the US broadcast was narrated by Oprah Winfrey, but with as little disrespect to Oprah as possible. Try to get the Attenborough version. Hope you can get these and enjoy. Sweden, they have Swedish women. I just want to screw these two Swedes together like some IKEA furniture. UK vocabulary. Spectacular words like rubbish are sorely underutilized in the US. That's why I imported a British wife. Although admittedly some of the words has only exacerbated some situations. Example. Hot tea spilled and yelling for a serviette. Daft cunt is one of the insults that I love. British insults are probably the best in the world, not just the English ones. Daft cunt. Daft Punk's Australian sister duo. I'm jealous of Madagascar's uncanny ability to avoid infection by closing their ports at the first sign of an outbreak. Port? It sounds so much more dramatic to say shut down everything than shut down that one port we have. I imagine all they did was post a guy at the end of the pier and give him a bucket of thrown rocks. America has circus-like politics. I don't even pay attention to what's happening in my stupid sensible country. Healthcare. Initiate circular jerk. Sweden, 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 Sweden.